I had my family Christmas a few days early, and today I got a book from my sister and her boyfriend by Steven Pinker called The Better Angels of Our Nature. God, I hope that does not show up backwards. I'm looking at it in the camera and it's backwards. I hope it doesn't show up that way. It's called The Better Angels of Our Nature, and it's about the marked decrease in violence in human history over the recent centuries, and a detailed explanation as to why that might be. And I took a look at this book, and my first thought was, oh my god, what the hell was I thinking asking for this for Christmas? Because it's huge. Like, it's phone book size. And it's written by a Harvard University professor on morals and ethics. And it all seemed too big and too much for my high school educated mind to comprehend. And sometimes it's hard not to think that maybe I'm just not as smart as I like to think I am. And I panicked, and I thought, this book is just going to sit there and gather dust, and I've been wanting to buy it for months. But I flipped through it, and I suddenly realized that the words were all normal English words, and they all came together in sentences that I was fully capable of reading and comprehending. And when you actually sift through the pages and you take out the index and the notes, it's actually only 700 pages long. 700 pages, but that's still only the size of 2 decent books, which is not that bad, really. And I got to thinking, despite the book's length and the qualifications of the book's author notwithstanding, why would anyone write a book that only a teeny tiny fraction of the most intelligent people ever are capable of comprehending? Especially on a subject so important as the mass decline in violence in recent human history. So I opened it and I read the preface, and it was, fully comprehensible material. It was something that I could understand, and it was just enough to let you know what the book was going to be about, and a brief summary of the things that he credits with the decline in violence and the demons that human nature tends to wrestle with and how they've been so greatly exaggerated. And it was enough to really whet my appetite and think that this is an incredible subject that people need to know more about. I used to look at, the bar beneath the CNN news, and it would have all these news bites about murder and death and robberies, and it would make me think that it was impossible for people to just live full lives and die of old age or some other natural causes. Like, it just was really scary, and all it was just these little bites where they talked about rape and murder and robbery and you name it. So after a couple months, I had to stop looking at the news altogether. So to read such an in-depth explanation that is completely opposite to the constant fear-mongering that we're force-fed is really refreshing and enlightening and hope-inducing, which is kind of a lost art these days because cynicism is so in. But there's a quote from the book that I really want to read. It's just in the first 6 pages, where he talks about one of the mass contributions to a reduction in violence being the feminization of a culture. And I thought it was really interesting. I'm going to be looking down for a lot because I wrote it down on a notepad, but it was easier to try and read from the notepad than the book. And I'm not perfect, so we'll see. The process by which a culture increasingly respects the interests and values of women is known as feminization. Since violence is largely a male pastime, cultures that empower women tend to move away from the glorification of violence and are less likely to breed dangerous subcultures of ruthless young men. The shift is not towards complacency. We enjoy the peace we find today because people in the past generations were appalled by the violence their time saw and worked to reduce it. And so, we should work to reduce the violence that remains in our culture today. Recognition of the decline of violence is the best way to affirm that such efforts are worthwhile. I really liked it, and I think it's off to a great start. I think that the things that women are allowed to do, patience and understanding and empathy and discussion, should not be wholly allowed to women alone and completely barred from men. It's very unfair of men. It presents a very low opinion of what men are capable of feeling and doing. And it's nice to see something concrete that says that the so-called feminization behavior is valuable to all humanity, and it's largely contributed to mass improvements in our entire society. So it's not really feminization, it's just an inclusion in, the full, what's the word? The yin and yang of human nature. Anyway, I just really wanted to say that because a lot of times I avoid things because I figure that that's only for smart people, and I'm not really that smart, and smartness is super rare. So if you start thinking that, take a baby step. Maybe a page, 2 pages. Don't make it anything huge. Don't make your goals too huge. You'll probably surprise yourself. Night, everybody.